Well, Human Settlements Minister Thembi Simelane says teams will be sent to Kwazulu-Natal to assist those affected by another round of flooding. Several bodies have been recovered, including those of children. Simelane says residents will be relocated and assisted to rebuild their homes. Lamontville and Umlazi in Durban, as well as the King Cetshwayo municipality, are among the worst affected areas. Well, Abahlali baseMjondolo's Thapelo Mohapi joins us now to really paint a picture of the situation in KwaZulu-Natal, particularly in the area surrounding Durban. Thapelo, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us yesterday, yesterday night, last night. I think that's the correct English. I mean, so many posts that were being shared coming out of the south side of Durban with the flooding. Talk to me about how informal settlements have been coping, and certainly the worst affected, how bad the situation is in those areas.
Good evening, Naledi. Good evening to the viewers. The situation on the ground is very terrible. I mean, we just left the area now in Lamontville, next to Barcelona, next to the river, where the majority of the people that were affected by floods come from that area. One family has lost 3 of its siblings. Of course, when I left the scene, one person was still unaccounted for. It's a very terrible situation when you see people who are crying, and we are very happy that finally the disaster management and plans have been made. As we speak, people are being evacuated and taken to a hall nearby.
Yeah, you know, there's so much to talk about, but I think maybe let's start with whether or not there's sufficient aid for these vulnerable communities. Could more could we see more being done?
Yes, in most cases, Naledi, and the mistake that the government makes is to assume that the people, when they are affected in this manner and when people have lost their loved one, as we speak right now, there are about 47 families that are still affected. And if today the rain comes, tonight people will still be affected. I mean, I felt it when I was also in my own community. It was that devastating rain that I've ever seen in my life. The last time I saw this was, of course, in 2022. And we have warned the municipality on a number of times. I think before we can even speak about how to deal with such issues, we have warned the municipalities that around this time in Durban in particular, that's April and March, that there are heavy rains that will take place. And we have seen this happening over and over again. And the same mistake that has been made is for us to not be proactive, but also always being reactive. And there are a number of issues that have caused these floods. We know that there are heavy rains, but also the river that was nearby is that people are throwing waste, because waste is not collected by the municipality, in the river, and then pipes are blocked. And when those pipes are blocked, the main pipes are blocked, then the same water, because it's heavy, goes into the community. The water was as high as people's homes when we arrived at 3 a.m. this morning. So we need to have a proactive stance rather than to react to these issues. But also, I think it's what I saw on the ground today was that providing alternative places where people are going to live is not enough. People need counseling. People are traumatized. People are distressed. People don't know what to do. Some have lost their loved one. Even those who are neighbors. I mean, when you have people who are fear to even go back to their homes because of what they have seen. And I think there's more that governments can do and bring on board. Social development needs to come and with counseling and assist the people that are actually in this kind of crisis.
Yeah. Thapelo, just one final one before I let you go, and that's the issue of, I think, information dissemination. So important, right? When we know that, we're going to see rains hitting various parts of the country, and there are expectations that, you know, you've got certain colour levels that are being announced by the Weather Service. If there is sufficient sort of information dissemination to the most vulnerable groups so that, you know, there is preparation and plans can be made for when disaster does strike?
I think this has not been communicated properly to the people on the ground, and this is the responsibility of government in all languages. But however, in this particular case, Naledi, what comes clear is that these are transit camps. Transit camps are temporary structures for people who have been affected, and these people were affected by floods and were removed from a particular hole and were located in this particular area. So they were allocated by government in this particular area. And when you look at it, it's very dangerous. It's next to the riverbanks. And one wonders how government departments can actually allocate people in such areas when they know that we had the same disasters in 2022. So for as long as we are not going to take lead by example, and I mean, we often tell people not to build along the riverbanks, particularly in these times of the year. But in this particular case, people were allocated by the eThekwini municipality, and the very same people were actually affected by floods and come from the hole, and these transit camps were built by them. And even electricity the area is electrified. And they've been there for 3 years, as opposed to 6 months as a transit. So, we have this crisis in KZN where transit can become permanent homes for people, and it's not a very unique, human type of place where people can live.
Yeah. You know, Thapelo, we obviously appreciate your time and hope that assistance does come for the aftermath of what's happened in vulnerable communities, but also forward planning, seeing some improvement. Thapelo Mohapi there is with Abahlali baseMjondolo speaking to us from Durban.